Well, in case you didn't hear, the UAW, or United Auto Workers, is currently on strike. Now, the elephant in the room, is this going to affect C8 production and or costs in the very near future? Let's talk about it. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel and happy Friday. First and foremost, this is more of an opinion piece kind of discussion, if you will, and my take on what's going on. What I believe is going to happen, maybe. No one for sure, even the CEO of GM, can tell you exactly what's going to happen with cars, production, costs, etc. There's way too many variables, way too many factors. Anyone on a social media platform that tells you X, Y, and Z are about to happen because such and such, I know for a fact, they're full of it. Just my opinion. All right, so first things first, the strike, the details of it. And in case you've been living under a rock the last few months, this has kind of been inevitable. It's been on a lot of people's radar, a lot of people that have Corvette on order or about to order one. I get the concern. I get the anxiety, if you will. So get you up to speed real quick. As of last night at midnight, the union and the automakers could not reach a deal, so a strike has been initiated. There are roughly 150,000 workers within the union, which is quite a bit. Not all of them are on strike yet. So what it looks like they're trying to do until they get an agreement, they're kind of doing waves. So as of right now, there's a little over 12,000 employees that are on a actual strike in strategic locations between General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, which is Chrysler, Jeep, Fiat, I believe. All those guys, there's now Stellantis, that's their mother name. Well, in any case, they're doing what's called a stand-up strike. I believe it's gonna get more aggressive if their demands, if you will, aren't met. And this is simply to start bottlenecking certain things and certain production from just very strategic locations. Now, here are the demands that the auto reps and the unions cannot agree on. They want up to, in some articles I read, 46% wage increase over the next 48 months, and they want to work less hours. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if Monday morning I went to my boss and I was like, hey man, I want an almost 50% pay increase over the next 4 years, and I'm not gonna work Fridays anymore, I'm fairly certain my boss would tell me to take a hike, rightfully so. I understand inflation, I understand the cost of living, but that's a lot. For 150,000 people, pretty much double your income and then take away some of your production. Now, full disclosure, I'm kind of 50-50 on unions. During my undergrad in college, a lot of it was focused on labor relations, so I am familiar with the process and how it works. I see both benefits and disadvantages of unions. My personal take on it, and this might be very divisive to a lot of people, in the private sector, if you're doing a good job and there's no corporate greed and you're fulfilling the needs of your employee, there should never be a need for a union. And I do believe unions should stay in the private sector. They have no business being federal workers, anything government related. That's a video for another time. So today we're gonna dive in and see how this may affect the C8 production and or cost in the very near future. Here's what we know. The C8 Corvette, in case you didn't know, already has very razor thin margins for each car made. These things, the performance and quality you get for the price, there's not much overhead at all. The Corvette is a halo car, it's a flagship for the brand, and with that, GM, Chevy does sacrifice a little bit in the halo car, making the money trickle down to other models. So what I'm getting at, there's not a lot of fat to cut from the Corvette, if you will, and if GM has to meet a almost doubled wage in the next few years, money's gotta come from somewhere, and one of the things to do would raise MSRP on all cars, and Corvette would not be excluded. So my personal opinion, the $65K starting price for the C8 would be out the window. Now, a lot of large dealers, or the top 10 Corvette dealers, only deal in MSRP, which is great. And typically, once you send your build sheet to GM, the dealer can lock your price in. Outstanding. However, if you're simply in queue right now, waiting for your build to come up, like I was for a year and a half, there's no cost protection, and you're at the will of GM accountants saying, hey, we gotta raise prices, etc. So this is where it could get ugly. A year ago, you placed a deposit for a car. For what you're thinking is $65K or $75K, whatever your budget allows you. Fast forward a year from now, and those prices could easily be 10% more. So your $65K car is now 72 to 73. Your $75K car is now 83 plus. It just is what it is. And again, I'm using 10% very arbitrarily. I don't know. And again, this is a very hypothetical price increase. I don't have GM balance sheets in front of me to see where they need to save money, where they can move money around. Now, if the C8 sees a sudden price jolt or increase and production is halted again, like COVID, I would suspect all C8s to go up in price again. They were just kind of starting to even keel a little bit. You were getting MSRP deals on brand new ones fairly easily. The used ones were finally selling at MSRP. But if there's constraints again and production just stops for a little bit or the prices increase, if you're already an owner, it's a good day. If you're waiting in queue or hope to get one way under MSRP soon, it could suck for you. It's just a shitty gut punch, and I definitely sympathize with you because I was in your shoes just for almost 2 years. Now, the best case scenario would have been that they came to an agreement last night. That didn't happen. The next best case scenario is the deal is made by Monday, by the latest next Friday. However, let's just a hypothetical. If this strike drags on for weeks, God forbid months, more people start going on strike, it's gonna get ugly. I think I read somewhere for every week there's a strike, GM loses $500 million. If this goes on for a month or two, you're looking at literally billions of dollars GM is out. They gotta make that money up somewhere. And they gotta pay their workers their new wages. And this is not just Corvette, GM, this is Ford as well, and all of Chrysler products, Fiat, Jeep, Ram, all of the products would probably see I wouldn't say substantial, but an eye-opening price increase. Now, a few hours ago, I was just watching a press conference with the CEO of GM, Mary something, I think that's right. GM has proposed to the union workers a 21% increase over the next 4 years with really good benefits. To me, it seems like a win. I'm not in the shoes of the union workers. I don't know their cost of living. I don't know what they make. It seems like a good deal. You got to be careful because eventually the automakers are going to get fed up because they have a product they have to put out that they have to make before the entire company just goes under. So it's a chess game. Now, the immediate impact this week will be very minimal. Most automakers have parts and supplies for at least 30 days to make cars. Corvette, I'm sure, is no exception. They're pretty caught up in all the supply chain issues that have been plaguing them since the start of the C8. This is just going to put them right back to square one again. But with that being said, even though all the Corvette's Bowling Green workers show up to work, all the other strikes could bottleneck their production. If there's little parts they need from somewhere else, they're just sitting around with their thumbs up their ass. They can't do anything. And then you have Ford, which is already pissed off. They laid off 600 of the workers this morning. I don't know if it was just out of a scare tactic. I don't know. And they already have scabs. Scab is just a silly word for someone filling the spot for a union worker that's on strike. Sometimes, as soon as the union makes an agreement, the scabs have to go away. Sometimes they stay on board. This happened in the NFL actually in the 80s, I believe, when the Redskins won the Super Bowl, their second one. It was all scabs. But long story short, the whole situation just sucks for the consumer. And everyone really. No one really wins. If you're trying to get a C8, chances are you got to wait a little longer if the strike doesn't clear up by next week. The prices could jump, and now you're waiting longer, and your hard-earned money is going to something that should have been a price that you initially set it at, and it's just very frustrating. Even though I do have an MBA, I'm not an economist by any stretch. I would definitely like to hear my viewers' thoughts below. This wasn't really a fun video to make, but it's something I feel like I need to just shed light on because it does affect cars and Corvettes, which I like both of those. And it is kind of big news. It's kind of everywhere. So it is what it is. I don't know. I have a fun video coming tomorrow. My mother-in-law is visiting. She is 70 and she wants to rip around town in my C5Z tomorrow. Yes, she can drive a standard. And yes, I'm going to let her drive it. And yes, I'm going to film it. It should be pretty fun. So that hopefully will be out Sunday at the latest. I hope. And until next time, mark out.